Hello everybody, I'm Jack Hathaway and welcome to Conversation Corner. We're in October now of 2014 and I'm joined by Selectman Jim Lehan, my regular guest. So welcome, Jim. It's good to have you back.
Good to be back.
How are things?
Best of my knowledge, okay.
Great.
So beautiful day out. It just deluges of rain. Other than that,
doing fine.
Doing fine.
So we have we got a lot to talk about. We've had a busy summer and we're off to still a quick start in the fall. We've got town meeting coming up, so we'll jump right in and talk about a number of different topics.
It was a busy summer. You know, people that watch the selectmen meetings or the various board meetings might see an hour and a half of discussion, but we had a lot of meetings this summer.
Yeah.
Very, very busy. A lot of activity going on in town that we want to share with folks that, while it's not before us right now, it's in the conversation stages, and we're doing our very best to get it here under the right circumstances, not the wrong circumstances. So we'll kick off there, maybe.
Okay.
Southwood's a good place to start.
Absolutely. So we got four kind of big potential projects coming up, and Southwood is probably the biggest, and at least potentially the biggest, and the one that we've talked about the most. That's the hospital down off of Route 1A. I think most people who have are regular town meeting regulars have kind of heard about Hoboken Properties and their plans to develop some residential and commercial property down there. But the selectmen created a zoning working group just for that kind of project, and
yeah, we did. He's I think he approached us probably a year ago that he was in the process of purchasing the land from the Archdiocese. He has a purchase and sale agreement. That particular property has a number of issues, not the least of which is there's a brownfield there. And so there are very few people that have the capacity to deal with that, to clean it up and make it a viable site. He's one that does. He's done it in several other locations. But he brought to us a proposal for a very, very substantial development that has a significant number of issues for us in the town. And that property currently is zoned for restricted age, which is 55 and up, and commercial. And he's looking to develop it, I think, beyond that. So he was looking for some zoning changes. So we did not want to rush into this. We wanted to be sure that wherever this led, we didn't want to blindly make zoning changes that might not end up quite the way we wanted. And we wanted to be sure that whatever occurs serves the best interest of the town at large, because issues like water, schools, public safety are all very much on the table when you talk about large projects. So we formed a working committee that was made up of all of the permitting boards, members of all of the permitting boards, as well as 2 or 3 citizens. Member of the Board of Selectmen was a member at large, if you will, not a non-voting member. I think pretty much all 3 of us took turns in attending those meetings. But that group met almost every week. It was chaired by our new planner, Ray, and it's not easy to get people to meet every week all summer long, but they put in yeoman's effort to try and work through these issues. And we're still in conversation. There's nothing being brought forward to town meeting in November regarding this property. We're not making any recommendations at this time. We may even end up holding a special town meeting to deal with it because it is a substantial project. But we've had very frank conversations about the issues: water, public safety, impact on schools, and we've made a lot of progress in terms of where he is positioning this, but still a long way to go. I do want to, I'll forget someone, so I don't want to name everybody on the committee, but I do want to thank everyone for giving up every Monday night, I think all summer long, to meet on this project. So it's in discussion stages, and we'll see where it goes.
Great. Yeah, I've been to most of those meetings, and they've been very productive. And,
yeah, they have been.
It's a good group. So similar to that, I guess, maybe couple of percentage points below that as far as impact is down on Lawrence Street. Tom DePlacido, who developed or is finishing up the village at River's Edge, is looking at a piece of property, the Buckley and Mann property, along with some other property that he would add to that, and looking at another residential development. So that will be going through kind of the same exact process with that special group, and then kind of coming together, trying to come up with the best plan for what fits the town, and so there's no negative impact to the town, and that'll be whether I kind of see it hard. In my own mind, I see it hard to make that many changes for that by the spring, but maybe it'll happen. But that'll be coming at a future town meeting where there'll be some potential zoning changes to talk about. But another significant residential development. Which,
And again, coming with the same issues, water
Yep.
being a major issue, the bridge on Lawrence Street, which I think was built in 1914.
Yep.
I don't think it could sustain any major traffic flows or heavy trucks, and not to mention just the number of homes proposed, which is still really an unknown. I mean,
Yep.
there's been a number of straw mans thrown at us, if you will, but that remains to be seen. But impact on schools, and all of these things have to be weighed.
The interesting component that's kind of being kicked around about the Southwood property was the assisted living component, and
Yeah.
potentially with an affordable component of the assisted living. So it helps us provide a service. You know, assisted living. I think as Massachusetts continues to age, we need more assisted living, but also an affordable component could greatly help the town solve our affordable housing requirement of 10% that the state puts on us.
Yeah, I'm glad you mentioned that. We probably should have chatted about that. But this project on Southwood is far beyond just the residential component. Even potential of a hotel
Yeah.
has been discussed down there. So it's an interesting project.
Yep.
And just one other thought on it. At the last meeting, he did agree that a lot of the individual unit residential would be restricted age. Now, will we end up there or not, but that's a big deal because that obviously limits the impact on our schools. So Cole would tell you it probably impacts public safety, but it clearly doesn't have the impact on schools. So we've made progress. But yeah, I mean, it could be assisted living. He's talking about potentially some apartments, hotel, small commercial businesses. It's an interesting project.
So to keep going down the list, a couple of weeks ago, beginning of October, at the Selectmen's meeting, we had a visit from some folks who are interested in developing the old Boy Scout property, or they're calling it Pine Creek still, Pine Creek Development. And they're looking at, if my memory serves, a 28
homes.
home subdivision, all single-family residences. They'll have an affordable component to it because it would actually be a 40B, so it would be 25% affordable. 2, 3, and 4 bedroom homes. Very interesting concept that they presented at the Selectmen's meeting. It's certainly will have to go through the zoning board of appeals if they finish going that route, but and it'll be vetted there. But looks like an interesting.
Yeah, I mean this is a 40B project.
Yep.
In fact, really, for all intents and purposes, what he's proposing has to be. It's the only alternative he really has. And we're working with them. We're not the authorizing board of selectmen. We're more informational than we are permitting. We don't have any real say in the process other than perhaps support or not support, if you will. But it's an interesting project. It'll be going before the ZBA, which all 40Bs do. It'll take some time to work it through, but he made a good presentation.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And then the last one, as far as the developments go, that at least the significant size developments, is 106, 108 Main Street. Those have both been sold to a new property owner.
Yeah.
And they're, I guess, revamping their materials, going through the different land use boards, and sounds like they're going to come back with a proposal for the town at some point, and that'll be another interesting discussion.
Yeah. It's a single owner now,
Yep.
and I know he's gone before conservation to deal with the issues associated with the ponds. But I haven't seen any proposal of specifically what he has planned. I don't think he's actually presented anything conceptually yet.
No.
So we'll see where it all goes.
Yeah, great.
But it's been busy. I can't remember a time when we've had this amount of proposed development come before the town, or potential development, I should say, that come before the town. And it really, from our perspective, my number of concerns, but water certainly being one. We don't have water capabilities down at Southwood. And we have a new bylaw, or not a new bylaw, but an existing bylaw that all new construction has to be hooked up to town water. So wells are not an option under our current bylaws. And we have some issues with our water system anyway that we're working through, and we're exploring new well opportunities and things of that nature. But that is a concern that has to be addressed in any of these projects. Well, possibly not 106, 108 because of its size, but certainly Southwood and Lawrence Street. Water is an issue, and, and it has to be. There has to be a solution to that before those projects can go forward. Absolutely.
So as is our tradition, we've completely blown apart my agenda for today, but so I'll jump around a little bit, and I guess just to continue the work of the zoning working committee.
Yep.
We've got fall town meeting coming up, and there will be some transfers, probably nothing of significance, but some cleanup from the spring town meeting. We'll have a little bit of capital. Fire department has a couple of items that they are looking at. And there may be a couple of other very small items that will be considered, but again, nothing of significance. I guess the meat of the fall town meeting looks like it's zoning, and so the group that you've been participating in has looked at retooling our zoning on kennels because of some changes in the state laws. Land use, solar, ground-mounted solar. That's kind of been a hot topic over the last couple of years, and so I know you guys have crafted some articles on trying to control that. Set some boundaries.
Yeah, boundaries is a better way to say it. It's by right now, and we're not changing anything that would impact people's ability to do it. We encourage it for those that it's appropriate for, and if it's roof-mounted, no change.
Yep.
But if it's ground-mounted, which we had one or two such incidents in town, we just felt that it's right, I guess for lack of another term, that the neighbor be part of the consideration, and
Absolutely.
that it not be built right next to the property line without any buffer or without any fencing or anything that becomes an eyesore to the neighbor or might impact the value of their property. So we're basically adding a section that the planning board will have some discretion as part of a special permit for any ground-based solar, commercial or private, or residential, I should say, that they will have some consideration associated for the neighbors. So I think that's a good thing. I mean, you need to. It's a small town, and we all kind of live together. And we had one situation where it was literally right up to the person's home, and they had a right to do it. I mean, it wasn't. They had a perfect right to do that. So we're going to try and clean that up. The kennel's been a lot of fun.
Yeah. I bet.
We're all dog lovers, so that's a great debate on that one.
And then we are cleaning up the marijuana facility.
Good way to say it. Yeah.
So that will be done.
And again, following the state guidelines on that.
Yeah. So another topic we want to talk about, and we spent a lot of time on the last couple of years, is the Regional Communication Center. And that ties into another topic, but the Regional Communication Center, again, for the people who haven't heard of that, is we've filed and actually been signed into law some local legislation for Franklin, Rentham, Norfolk, and Plainville to join together and take our dispatchers out of each of the towns and put them in a single location and have a regional communication center. There's only 3 or 4 of them in the state, but the state is providing grant money and really trying to push this, and I'm a huge component of regionalization, so we are going ahead with that. And after several start and stops and looking at different locations, we've focused on a piece of property that Norfolk is in the process of trying to acquire. That's down on Shire Drive, and looks like we'll obtain ownership of that property over the next couple of weeks, and we'll then go out for hiring a project manager and architect, and we'll be leasing a quarter of that building to the Regional Communication Center, and so Norfolk will be earning some rent from that, and we'll begin the process of we're going to try and build obviously a police station. We talked about that at the last town meeting, but we're going to try and put a police station down in the building with the Regional Communication Center, and then as kind of to finish up that whole project, we'll do a little bit of work at the public safety building to so that our fire department will be housed at what is now our public safety building on Main Street. So if we can get that done, I think we'll be in great shape.
Well, as is always the case, we don't ever follow scripts anyway, but this is really exciting. I mean, and you have been the driver of this in terms of the regional dispatch center, representing this board, but also been a mainstay in the whole process. So thank you for that, because this is a breakthrough for us. We've been talking about regionalization in different ways that we can do this, and this is the first time we've had a cooperative kind of atmosphere where everybody kind of was on the same page. And I know we've had a lot of difficulty in finding a location. Originally it was going to be in Rentham, in fact in the existing facility, but wasn't room. We looked at another one, I believe, on 140. That didn't work out, and now we have the one on Shire, and the state's anxious for us to get going. So we need to move quickly to get this thing going. But the other is just to talk a little bit more about the public safety building. We've talked about it many times, but people that drive by it think it probably looks like a pretty good building, but in truth it's not. It's a mess, and we've had a need there for some time. And there is a public safety building committee chaired by George Cronin that's been looking at this now for several years. And the price of renovating that building for both police and fire, and this is about a year and a half old, so it's going to be higher, was about $14 million, and that's all on the back of the taxpayers. There's no 50% from the state or anything else. This solution that has gotten us so excited about, or that we're so excited about, in having the opportunity to build the police station next to the rec center and the remaining part of that facility, is going to substantially reduce that overall cost. So by renovating this building and building in the police station into an existing facility, we are going to cut that cost down dramatically. And it's the cheapest option that we've been able to find. I know one question that gets asked is, well, don't you want the police centrally located? Well, we want the fire centrally located so they can get to the town equally in all directions. Police, that's not a requirement, and I think the police chief has spoken to that at town meeting, but they're on the road 24/7. They're not sitting in the police station. So, and we do know that we need to have some issues associated with the building in the center of town for people that might need emergency access, and all of those things will be part of how we reconfigure this. But it's a good option for us, the best we've found. Yeah. And I hope that we got to get to work on that for the spring meeting, and hopefully the town will recognize the need and be supportive of the need. So we'll see how it all works out.
Yeah. Well, and
but the rec is a given. So.
Yeah. And you were very kind to me, but the selectmen have been very supportive, and the chiefs and the deputies have been put in a lot of work for this. So it's been a great team effort. So we're moving forward. I did want to, speaking of public safety, we have a retirement down at the police station. Butch Carlson, Winslow Carlson, Butch as he is known, after 28 years has decided to retire. So we wish Butch the best of luck.
And thank him for his service.
Absolutely.
Very much so.
Been on the force for a long time, and he will be missed. He's got some jealous fellow officers who are unfortunately, I mean this with sincerity. We've got a bunch of officers who will be retiring over the next 3 to 4 years. And
about 5 or 6, I think, are within 5 years of retirement, and that's going to be a big transition in our department. But the good news is that our police chief has anticipated this, and he's brought a lot of young folks in that are reserve officers that can work into these positions, and they get a chance to know us. We get a chance to know them, and so we're preparing for those retirements, but we're going to miss a lot of these guys. They've been on the force a long time, and they'll be missed. One thing that wasn't on your list that I did want to share, surprise, surprise, it's always good to tell folks a little bit how we're doing financially.
All right.
And this, again, is really just credit to your department. And Julie does a phenomenal job, and I don't mean to single her out, but she's worth singling out.
She gets the nod. Yep.
We had over $1.1 million of free cash certified recently. About half of that will be used for capital between this meeting and the spring meeting, but the rest is surplus. And so we have a warrant article on the fall town meeting to put some more money into our stabilization fund, another $100,000, which is basically our reserves. For years, we had made no deposits to that account. Better part of 10 or 12 years, as long as I can remember, we'd made no deposits. It was about 600 some odd thousand, if I remember. And we built that up over the last couple of years. We did make one withdrawal for King Philip last year, and basically we're replacing that. And this will bring us, I think, around $1.2 million. in reserves. That all helps our bond rating, and S&P likes to see that. And I want to just again compliment Julie. Our bond rating was upped again this year.
Yep.
That's twice, I think, in the last 3 or 4 years by S&P, and that helps us with all of our borrowing. We pay less, we save the taxpayers' money, but financially we've come through this mess, although we may be heading into a new mess for all I know, but we've come through this mess in pretty good shape. So a lot of people have contributed to that success.
A lot of people, you're right. And Julie does kind of bring it all together, our town accountant, and who does a fantastic job. But having Ingrid Lardy, the school superintendent, the chiefs, Chief Stone, Chief Bushnell, Bob McGee over at DPW, Bob Bullock in Town Hall, all people who have budgets that they all, without a doubt, all of them manage their budgets as if it's their own money, and return the money back to the town without, we don't see any wild June spending like you do in some towns.
No, they do a great job, and I think the elementary schools returned over $100,000 to us last year in free cash, and they've been great partners to work with. All of the departments it's just a very nice cooperative atmosphere that's in town right now in terms of working through these issues and minding our dollars. They've been terrific.
Tom Doyle, the chairman of the school committee, is a little shaky, but other than that, I think we're doing fine.
I think Mr. Doyle's doing just fine.
He's great. He and I had a good time on the school building committee, and he works hard and does a great job.
And that building has been very successful.
It has,
and not a lot of post-mortem problems, relatively speaking.
Knock on wood. Nope.
Some, but compared to some of the other town projects we've had over the years, not to mention, well, we'll leave them out, but we've had some pretty significant issues as a result of some new construction that we, so far, aren't having any huge issues with this new facility. So we'll keep our fingers crossed.
Yeah, I will say that building committee was very diligent. Mike Giudice, Beth Gilbert, Bob Bullock, Andy Bakanowski, all and others, but those kind of four in particular were, ravenous in looking through the materials, and Mike's expertise in particular.
Yeah, you had some good talent on that committee, and I know we had some pretty hard conversations with some of the developers and contractors, but you need to have those hard conversations.
Yeah.
And,
boy, is it I mean, it's, you've been through several of these projects yourself, and anybody that's built a house knows what it's like to deal with a contractor. You just multiply that by 10, I would say. And
more like 20.
Yeah, you're dealing with a vendor that's working for you that won't listen to you until you beat him upside the head. And so it's a fun process.
But that was done.
Yeah, that committee did a great job.
We had some
Leo Bedard,
pretty interesting
mention.
meetings. Yeah. So that went well.
One other thing that I wanted to talk about, and then was just, I know NCTV, Norfolk Cable, is doing our show again today, and I want to thank Katie Woodham for, I forget now if I'm supposed to put the S on the back of that. So Katie, thank you very much for directing, managing, filming.
Yes. She says yes.
Yes,
You got it right.
Being the one person talent to put this together for us, I appreciate that. And NCTV is looking for a new station manager. We've unfortunately lost our current station manager to other ventures. So they are advertising. The board there at NCTV is advertising for a new station manager. So if you know somebody or you are interested in being the station manager, please contact the Norfolk Cable, and we need to get that position filled to continue on the good work that they do.
Now, as always the case, I just remembered one thing we were going to chat about.
I'm sure you probably told me, and I forgot to write it down.
No, I forgot to remind you. But there is an article on the warrant for a treatment plant up on top of the hill. A lot of information around that, but you were part of the process. You might want to just share a little bit of background on it, because we're going to ask the community to allow us to take over that facility. And I'm sure there will be, and should be, a lot of questions as to why we'd want to do that. But maybe give a little background, then we can talk about why we're considering it.
Sure. So there's a 30,000 gallon per day wastewater treatment plant at the top of the town center hill. So up by the condominiums, there's a building there, and then there's a big leaching field. We have several in town. We have Village of River's Edge has one down at Shire Park. There's a little different version of one. So they do exist. This isn't some crazy thing that when people think about the old days, talking about a wastewater treatment plant, this isn't a big open pit type thing.
Right. It's a small building for all intents and purposes.
It's a small building with a big leaching field, kind of a huge home septic system. So we're looking to take that over, and we've got an agreement with the owners of the developer, the Borelli family, to take that over from them, and at no cost. And so we would do that and run that and run it as an enterprise fund like we do the water department. So we would run it. So we would go forward and we would collect revenues from the users of the facility, and use those revenues to pay the expenses of running the treatment plant. Now we've gone through and done a lot of our due diligence. We still have a little bit more to do, but we've gone through and hired a couple of different engineers to look at it, to give us budgets. We think we can do it cheaper than Mr. Borelli has been doing it, and Mr. Borelli would agree with that. He's got some private insurance issues and financing costs, et cetera, that he had to cover that a municipality would not have to cover. So we're able to do it a little bit cheaper. So the goal, really the incentive for us doing this is I think a lot of people would agree with me, is that we think that this is a utility that the town should run, not be run by a private developer who can or cannot make a profit on it. We think we want the town to run it. We'll run it as a non-profit, if you will. So we'll charge enough revenues to pay for the expenses. Obviously, we'll have a capital plan to put away reserves like we do in the water department to continue to improve the system, and a wastewater treatment plant will need to, replacement costs after a 10 to 20 year period. You'll always have some, significant capital costs that you have to put in. But we think we can do a better job at it than the developer can, because it's not his business. And again, I'm not saying anything that he would disagree with. So we're looking to do that. We think it'll help out the people who are in the residential units up there now, the 44 condos. We think we can provide them the same service at a cheaper cost. Also, Walgreens and hopefully Silla's will be running soon. They'll be connected to this facility. And then as more of the downtown gets developed, obviously where Stop and Shop could potentially be, but also the other acres that are now owned by somebody else other than Stop and Shop. But there's been a little bit of conversation about building putting some commercial development on those other parcels. Those would be allowed, as the documents stand today, to connect to this facility. So we'll be able to provide service for them. But we can also look at expanding this facility to the center of town, within a reasonable geographic distance. But we can also hopefully inspire some more growth in the center of town. So we think it's to our own benefit to have this and be able to control it at our discretion. When I say ours, I mean town meeting's discretion.
Right.
We wouldn't be able to make any changes without town meeting.
I know a logical question, I think, from folks is, why would we want to take over a project like this, especially one that's privately owned? And there are other components to the agreement concerning the roads and things of that nature. But really, it isn't that we're in the business of running sewage treatment plants or package plants, but we do see it as a commercial opportunity. As long as, and we've done the numbers, we're doing the inspections, and there are funds already set aside for capital considerations, because these do have to be upgraded over periods of time, and you need to put that away. But we want to be sure that it's revenue neutral to the town, that we're not creating any additional exposures to the town. If we can run it at a lower cost, that'd be a good thing. But that treatment plant, I believe, is only being used at less than 10% of its capacity. So it has a tremendous amount of growth opportunity. So right now, as you mentioned, Walgreens and the 2 buildings, one of which is soon to be opened, we hope, and the 44 condos are all that's being serviced by that package plant. So there's this enormous opportunity to expand it into the B1 district. And Obviously, it would be, there's a cost to that, and any cost would have to be approved by town meeting, so we don't arbitrarily decide where it doesn't go. The voters always get that decision. But we are limited as to what we can develop in our town center, a restaurant, for example. Without the capacity of a package plant, if you will, they're limited by the size of the septic system, and that limits the number of people that are capable of being in there at any given time. And I think the one that was proposed many years ago was, I think, limited to 48 people, or it was a pretty small number. And it was all because of septic. So this does at least create the opportunity for someone that might want to hook up to this and some of the available property in our town center to look at a restaurant, for example, just to pick one particular item that wouldn't have the same restrictions that it would without this capability. And so it is something we've looked long and hard at, and it's a little bit opportunistic on our part because of some other issues associated with this to work through some of the issues we've had up there. But I hope people will take a good look at this, and hopefully we'll give you the right information to help you make the right decision on this. But we think, the board thinks, and I know you think, and all parties that have evaluated this think that this is the right thing for us to do.
Yeah. And I thank you. That was a lot of good information, and I encourage people to send me questions. If you have questions about it now, send them in. Obviously, why would we want to take that? Or you have questions that I haven't thought of. I would love to, have your questions now, so I can help answer them. Because getting a real technical question on the night of town meeting would be difficult to answer. But if people have questions, I'm sure other people have the same questions. So I'd be happy to push those out at selectmen's meetings. We'll be talking about them at the advisory board meetings. Yeah. And certainly we'll be talking about it.
And we can share the financials. We've got all the data. We've got all the inspections. We haven't gone into this without a good amount of due diligence, and we'd be glad to share any of that anyone would like to see. I think we've really done our homework on this by necessity, because anytime you take on something like this, there are potential liabilities, and you need to look down the road a little bit and be sure that you're not exposing the town, us, the taxpayers, to an obligation that might surface unforeseen. So I think we've done a good job on this one. So, but the voters get to decide that. Yeah. So.
All right. Well, let's.
Sorry if we forgot that one.
No, I appreciate you bringing it up, and you did mention it to me earlier. I just didn't write it down. So thank you again for being here today.
Always a pleasure. And
as we talked a lot about the planning and zoning and town meeting stuff, I would be remiss if I didn't comment again about what a positive influence having Ray Goff working for the town. He's our new town planner. If those of you who haven't met him, he's working in with Betsy and Marie in the planning and development office. But stop by and chat with Ray. He's a great communicator, someone that's easy to talk to. Stop by and talk to him and share some of Norfolk's history with him, if you will. But he's brings a lot of talent and good insight and a lot of good questions that helps the rest of us.
He's been terrific. It always takes a little bit of time to settle in and get to know us as we need to get to know him, but he's been terrific. And he's got a torturous job by my book. I mean, there are some other zoning articles that are on the warrant, but they're house cleaning articles. That's one of the problems we have, is that the amateurs that we are in writing zoning, and sometimes we don't get it quite the right way. And when we make changes, we don't always reflect it appropriately in our new bylaws. And Ray has been in the process of going through and cleaning up these, I'm going to call them mistakes, because that's what they are, cleaning up these mistakes that have gone on for years. And some of those changes will be brought forward in this fall, and they're really just house cleaning. They don't change the intent, but they make it clearer to folks exactly what the intent of that bylaw is. Yeah. So, and there's a lot more to go. It's a big book.
It is a big book.
So yeah, then, he's been great.
And I think this spring we're going to start with the rumblings of updating the master plan. So if people have an interest in the master plan, I would encourage you to reach out to me or the selectmen and express your interest. It is
or directly to Ray.
Or directly to Ray, even better. I've been through it once myself, and there's a lot of information about the town that goes into that, and it's an education along with a a lot of work.
Yeah, and we, we want the master plan to really reflect what the community wants the vision of this of this town to be. I mean, that's in fact what a master plan is. It takes all the data and says, here's what you could be if you so choose, but it does it within the framework of what we think we
What
want.
we want to be.
Yeah, and it requires input. I mean, we've got 6,500 voters. Love to get 6,500 people giving input. I suspect we won't get a consensus, but we can at least get opinions, and that's what it's all about.
So if you do go in and stop and talk to Ray, don't tell him I said he's doing a good job, because he won't let me forget that. So I appreciate that if you do that. But I do want to thank Katie one more time. So thank you, Katie, for running the cameras. Thank you. And thank you, Jim, for being here today.
Always a pleasure. Thanks for
Your
having me.
service to the town. It's there aren't many people that have been around in town hall longer than, well, there are a lot of people that have been around town hall longer than me, but you're certainly one of them. So it's good to have you around still.
Thank you.
And so I guess that's it for this month. And I'm sure we'll probably actually come back again next month. Our monthly show will actually be a monthly show. Cause
We're going to try.
We'll want to talk a little bit more about town meeting just before town meeting.
Yeah.
So enjoy the fall, people, and thank you very much for being with us. Have a great day.